Welcome to Patrick's Scale Studio. My name's Patrick. I'll be your host. This will be build video 3 for USS Missouri in 1/350th scale by Verifier, and that also includes Verifier's detail upset. We've gotten the hull joined together and sink marks and seams and pretty much everything like that dealt with in the previous video. Got a very solid hull to work on. So this video, I would like to work on getting these teeny tiny little photo etch plates. I'm going to hold this up here. Kind of see that right there in the blue and red. And those correspond with J1 and J2 on this photo etch fret right there. As you can see, I've already got all those little plates cut out. And I put them right there after cleaning them. I put them on the other piece of sticky cellophane plastic that they put on top of this. So they're cleaned up, they're ready to go. So at this point right now we just need to come back in here and identify those tick marks that we placed on there earlier. And I don't know if it's going to show up incredibly well on the camera, but you can just barely make out some of these little tick marks. I'll get some tweezers here to point them out. We've got one there and one there, and those are for the J1 parts. Up here there's one right there, and right there, and right there. These are for the J2 parts. So we'll probably go ahead and start off with the J2 and then come back and do the J1 parts. And I'm not going to do all of them on video because there's 20 per each side. So that's going to definitely be really super boring to watch me do all of those. But we'll get a couple on here, the demonstration, and I'll take care of the rest off camera. And then the other thing that we're going to look at is getting the rest of this first page taken care of here, page 4, the whole assembly, which is rudders, the propeller shafts, and everything like that, and getting that on. Propellers we might leave off until last, but that for the most part will complete the whole construction for Missouri. So let me go ahead and get set up to start putting some of these on here, and we'll dig in. Alright, I'm going to try to do this, you know, on camera and be efficient. You'll notice I'm using a wax pencil right there. These are fantastic for tiny little pieces of photo etch. It doesn't always want to let go of the part unless there's a little bit of CA behind it, but you can definitely see the parts are flexible enough that they will adhere to the hull properly and kind of conform to the slight curve there. On this one here, I don't have any CA there yet, but I definitely want to make sure that I'm trying to get it perpendicular to the waterline. Because at least from what I can see in pictures, that's what it looks like to me. So I've got the I've got a little bit of medium CA there, and I've got my mark where I'm going to put it, and I've got a good idea that it can't be a very large splotch of glue. I'm just kind of, because this is a very thin little item here, and I do know that I am CA gluing this part down to primer and not plastic, but that's alright. I'm going to reprimer over these. I'm going to use again some of the Mr. Surfacer primer over top of these just to have them ready for paint. Alright, so the first one is on there. If you're familiar with the old rhetorical question of how do you go about eating an elephant, the answer is one bite at a time. So there is our first bite. So go ahead and work on getting the rest of these. Get another one here off. Like I said, I won't do all of these. And yeah, they are they're not terribly easy to handle. Alright, so head and toothpick again. Just a little bit of CA without a hair in it. Again, just kind of try to put a minimal amount on there. As you can see, there is a flat edge of these that goes toward the top. If you don't have too much CA under the part when you apply some finger pressure, it shouldn't come oozing out. But instead, these super thin brass parts should conform nicely. So I've got 2 of those on. I'm going to go ahead and get a couple of the J1 parts down here on. Alright, so let me go ahead and snatch one of these off of. And it's helpful to have the part close to where you're working. That way you can see a good rough idea of how much CA you should be putting down, because again, you don't want to put down a bunch. So I got just a little bit there. And if my hands are in the way, I apologize in advance. Alright, so there's a J1. We got a couple J2s and a J1 on there. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of the rest of these off camera. We'll come back and have a look at it, and then, you know, we'll move on to the propellers and shafts and rudders, and then finally some primer all over everything, and maybe a unifying hull red or something like that. Alright, all of the teeny tiny little plates have been added to the hull. This is the starboard side. And here is the port side. Let's see if we can get a close-up here. So are they perfectly placed? By no means. But I would say probably in the high 90s. You know, I just wasn't really going to take the time for something that really did not add that much of an overall effect to the hull. I was not going to take the time to, you know, measure out 100% right angles and all of that. So I eyeballed it as best as I could. They're just about properly spaced. Again, I'd be hard pressed to really see something with just my regular eyes without some kind of a rule just to say, hey, that's off. They look good. They look the part in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cover both sides with some primer here to kind of help them be a little bit more locked in, also kind of fit in more with the hull, and then we'll move on to the back area here where we've got the propeller shafts and their supports. Well, put on the Mr. Surfacer 1500 and pretty happy with the results. They almost completely go away, just kind of like disappear into the Mr. Surfacer until you look at it at certain angles. And frankly, it's kind of, I'm happy with that result. Even in pictures of the real thing here, is not seeing a lot of prominence on these little plates. So I think they absolutely look the part, look like they're supposed to, and very happy with how that looks. So move on to the next step here. All right, well, the hole and everything with those little plates is all finished. So far, we've got a total of 86 pieces, including all those little photo etch pieces. It doesn't look like it, but yeah, 86 pieces. That leaves these anchors here. So we'll probably get to those here in this video. And then it brings us also down to right here. All these parts here are on the E sprue. All of the propellers are all labeled differently. The rudders are the same part. The propeller shaft supports are different parts along with the actual shafts themselves. So all of it is on the E sprue. And again, I figured out kind of what the deal was here with this. It looks like this used to be one sprue, or it was shot in one sprue here. They just put E-tabs at each end because they knew they had to split it apart so that they could fit it in the box. So we'll go ahead and start cutting things out. Alright, so we've got the two identical rudders cut out. Detailing on these is pretty nice. Bring that up to you to have a look. Looks like we've got the little zinc bits on here. That's what these right here are, zinc bits to help with the corrosion. This right here will fit up inside the hull, so I'm not too worried about a cleanup on there. But just sprue nib right there, and then we just have to sand this flat, and these will be in good shape. Moving on here to our supports. Each of the supports, and I'm trying to keep them separate here, the sides that they're on. So they've got a mold seam running down all the way, and on the inside here, only two sprue attachment points. Shouldn't be too difficult, and the way they've got this set up is these go right in there, and then just a propeller on the end. So I'm going to get these cleaned up off camera and be right back. I just wanted to point out real quick before I get to the cleanup here on parts E22 and E13, I went ahead and cleaned up E21 and E12. They fit really well on the bottom of the hull. Looks nice, but the cleanup is rather extensive on these. So you can see right there, that is mold seams and everything like that dealt with, taken away, and sanded down to 400 grit. This is what we start with though, and I just like to say, I don't think it's really the most impressive molding I've ever come across. I feel like I've seen some metallurgy kits with a little bit better molding quality than that. So I'm hoping it is only on this E sprue. But yeah, you can definitely see there's slight steps there on the propeller shaft supports. And you also have to clean that up on the bottom here. I'm not totally worried about it on the bottom of all the way on the very bottom, because you're never ever going to see that, but you could definitely see on the inside here of the legs of this support right there. You have to get that cleaned up. So just again wanted to point that out. The rudders cleaned up really nicely. That sprue nib is off the bottom now. I took the one right there off of the little pin that locates in the hole, and then just kind of gave it a 400 grit sanding sponge on all of the edges right here. Again, not too worried about where it's going up against the hull, because you'll never ever see that. But yeah, that turned out really nicely. So I'm going to finish cleaning up these other parts here, and then we'll look at getting them onto the hull. So E21 and E12 have both been cleaned up, as we pointed out just a second or two ago, along with E22 and E13. Also cleaned up here. So these go, let me move this over here a little bit. Alright, so this is going to go right here. And I think it's important to point out that the holes needed a little bit of cleaning up. Quite all right though. Also, seems to be just a little bit of a gap there in the parts. That's all right as well. Alright, so that support is all the way down. But I want to, this doesn't look 100% parallel to the water line. If I make that gap disappear, then it looks like this the shaft is kind of going down and the support is going that way. So it looks like we're going to need a little bit of filler or something right there just to make that look parallel with the water line. We'll go over here and have a look at this one as well. And again, the holes all needed a little bit of reaming out with a drill bit in order to get everything to line up properly and get these to fit in where they're supposed to fit in. Alright, so if we look at this one here, kind of better for the most part than this one right there. Everything attaches from the everything goes all the way through the hole, so maybe the gap isn't that bad. But needless to say, I'm going to go ahead and get these glued or cemented from inside the hole just to get the parts in place. Once they're in place, then I can fiddle around with the alignment. So I'm just going to use a little bit of extra thin here. And I'm going to actually be rather sloppy with this from the inside here. Once again, we're not going to see anything from inside the hole. But the other hope here is that some of this will wick its way through the hole and into where the part is actually contacting the bottom or the outside of the hole. As long as we don't fiddle around with it too much or put any weight or pressure on it, then it shouldn't ooze plastic or anything like that from it. Alright, oof, I just keep hitting that camera with this Optivisor. But Optivisor is a necessary evil, partially blind without it when it comes to parts this small. So, propeller shafts and the supports are both in. And that means that we can next put our rudders on. We're just going to go like that. And what I'm going to end up doing is securing these off camera so I can both make sure that they're in alignment. They have to be in alignment with these pieces right here. So in order to be able to look down the hole from this perspective here, I'm going to have to do it off camera. Let me get those attached. Be right back. This time I'm not too worried about putting the actual propellers on here just because I want to take them off, spend some time with cleaning them up and putting a really nice metallic finish on them. And I still have to paint the hole before I do that anyway, so I don't have to worry about masking these off to make sure that they're not in whole red. But as you can see, you get 2 5-bladed propellers and 2 4-bladed propellers. These go outboard and these go inboard, according to the instructions here. So at this time, the last thing we're going to do here, assembly-wise, is put together, put these 2 anchors on both J35. I've located the J sprues. Go ahead and turn this around here. Alright, and better yet, just even put it up here like this. Something I've been doing also when I have it on its side right here, just to make sure it doesn't go rolling, is I take a couple of these quick clamps here. I just kind of put them there, right there, and it kind of helps weigh it down on its side so it doesn't roll over. I want to have a look right here where those anchors are going to go. And there is J35. So let's go ahead and snap both of them out. Interesting how these are in relation to anchors that we're used to seeing on other kits, like the trumpeter kits. Sorry, I'm just getting the second one out. I know I didn't put that on camera. But yeah, the trumpeter kits usually include the entire anchor. And it's in pieces. Like you get the actual, I guess this anchor bit here. And then the shank is a separate piece that you slot through, and then there's a little clevis up at the top that you put on. That's a typical trumpeter anchor. These right here for Verifier are just like that. And they do not include any aftermarket replacements in the detail upset. But these right here, for the most part, just go right in there, like that. And it's enough. We don't have to get overly detailed or anything like that. That is definitely enough just for an anchor right there. Now, the only issue is it's not really good at staying put, but that's what it'll end up being like. You wouldn't see, unless you were going to have them lowered, you wouldn't see the shank of the anchor or the clevis or the chain or anything like that. So not really any sweat for us there. But I'm just going to go ahead and get these cleaned up and we'll put them on. Interestingly enough, I'm going to actually revise what I was doing and saying and preparing to do here for these anchors. Yeah, it's true. Just like I said, we're not really going to see very much of it other than that. But the more I got to looking at this, the more I was kind of getting irritated that it just doesn't really have a very accurate shape at all. And it's definitely going to be hanging out there. It's kind of thick and chunky and really pretty far away from what I think an anchor should look like. So, yep, once probably saw that in frame already. A while back, I purchased a World War II USN anchor set for aircraft carrier battleships, and it has chains. And there you get 4 of them. And the reason I bought this is I got the USS Ohio, the Montana class battleship kit. Really pretty much just a paper ship. And I think they started laying it down, but just scrapped everything before before they even got close to completing it. But that kit only takes 2 anchors. This kit only needs 2 anchors, and I've got a total of 4 in this HS models set. So I'm going to go ahead and get one of these out and kind of compare to see what it looks like with what Verifier's provided as an anchor. So I'm just kind of cut one out here while we're on camera. Move this aside. And the thing is, I don't really need all of the bits and pieces on this because it's a pretty intricate set. So you get besides the anchor, which I'm separating from the supports now, besides just the anchor, you get a nice shank, and you get this right here, which connects the shank or the clevis to the shank. Shank's got the clevis. This connects the clevis to the rest of the chain, and there, right there, is a another clevis, in fact, that you can use as well. But really, this is just, you know, it's a very nice set, and we only need this and the anchor for the most part right now. I'll go ahead and pull that off. See? There we go. And much like well, no, not at all like the trumpeter sets. This doesn't, you don't have to thread this through the bottom. It just glues on right there. And so that's the anchor right there. Now let's go ahead and put that down. Put down the Verifier anchor. What do we like better? Absolutely the HS Models anchor on the left. So there is the side profile of Verifier's anchor, and side profile here of HS Models anchor. Additionally, with the benefit of not having to clean up the seam all the way around it. So I'm going to go ahead and use 2 of these HS Model anchor out of this set of 4 to put right onto USS Missouri. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of the parts cut out. We'll be right back. Alrighty. Well, the 2 pieces for each anchor have been assembled with a little bit of medium CA glue. And this right here, I'm just going to go right up in there, put a little CA glue in there. Now you notice here we've got a little bit sticking out past above where the deck would go, so we're just going to go ahead and chop it off. The anchor below where we're chopping still looks a world apart better than what is included with the Verifier kit, and I have to admit that is really pretty disappointing in Verifier in that that was what they decided to include. So let's go ahead and pull that out. Bit of CA here. Yep, I am using the inside of the hole as a little pallet for some medium CA. I'll go ahead and get some loaded up on a toothpick here. Alrighty. And in she goes. I'll just let that set up. A little bit different than other ship builds where I'd like to attach these a lot later on in the build. At 1/350th scale, I'm just going to paint them the same color, probably go over them with a little bit of rust effects and everything like that. Okay, so that is done. I'll go ahead and chop off the other one here. Again, just only need that much. All right, a little bit more medium CA on our palette inside the hole. One thing you can always do afterwards, if you're not 100% satisfied with the amount of CA that's holding things in, you can always follow up on the inside of the hull after you kind of get this tacked in place. Alright, so just let that sit for a minute. I'm probably going to follow out a little bit more CA on the inside just to make sure it's secure. And at that point, we're going to move on to painting. Alright, go ahead and quickly summarize what we did in this episode. Video 3, we already had the hull put together, but we got the anchors on. We got the propeller shafts, their supports, and the 2 rudders in place here. And so, I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like here with the hull red. Alright, so here we have it. This is just Tamiya's whole red color. It's flat, everything looks good. In the end, I wasn't overly concerned with where the propeller shafts hit the supports. So I just kind of left it as is rather than putting too much and digging into it too deep. Now I know I went a bit high on the whole red. That's alright though, we still have to mark out a water line. We'll go ahead and put this aside so I can finish drying. And 4 of those quick clamps underneath on these bulkheads right here so I could keep it flipped up and let it dry there. So our next video we're going to have the water line, the boot strap, and then the gray color marked out because I'm going to be going with this color scheme. I know this one looks so much cooler, but I just really just wanted this one because with this one here, you have to paint the deck. I've got a wooden deck and I really like the look of the wooden deck. Now, there is a picture of 1945 after the Japanese surrender on Missouri where she's coming home and still all in this color scheme except for the actual wood deck is in natural wood color. It looks like they stripped all of this paint off. And I'll show you a picture right here. As you can see, all of the deck just looks like natural wood, but it still has this overall color scheme, and the tops of the turrets and the gun tubs and stuff like that are still the darker deck color. So that's why I like this color scheme right here, is I want the look of the natural wood on the deck. So I'm going to be, by next video, we're going to be marking off the boot strap, and this, there's 2 tones here. There's a lighter gray, and then there's a like a sea blue, but it's not that dark, I don't think. We will also get into the beginning here of the construction on our 16-inch gun turrets and Bofors. The Bofors and the 16-inch gun turrets all are going to require quite a bit of photo etch, so that might go in a couple of episodes. We'll just have to see how it goes and if it's going to play nice with us. But otherwise, I think that's going to wrap it up for build video 3. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free to leave that feedback for me in the remarks section below. And until build video 4, stay safe and happy modeling.